So hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me on a Tuesday. That's right, it's not my normal day. And this is not a standard backyard beekeeping question and answer episode either. This is just me sitting in the middle of the frozen Pennsylvania countryside with several feet of snow outside, thinking about and reflecting upon what happened earlier this month. What happened? I went to a bee conference. In fact, it was the biggest and best beekeepers conference that I have ever been to in my entire life. And it was hosted by Cayman Reynolds. And of course, he had a lot of supporting staff behind him, Laurel and others. I was so happy to be invited down there. And let's clear the air. It's the best beekeeping conference I've ever been to, but I've never been to one before. I know, unbelievable. This is the second year they did it, and they did it down in Sevierville, Tennessee. And what I did is I left here with my wife, Annette, who stole the show from me down there at the conference. And we drove straight through from Pennsylvania, 13 hours, right to Sevierville. But we made it. Storms coming in. Some people got locked up in the snow. But that's not why you're here. You want to know, maybe, was it a decent conference? Well, keep in mind I have nothing to compare it to. And one of the reasons that I say that is because I bombed it. That's right, I had all these ideas. I had all these plans and people I was going to talk to. All these vendors are there. So what I'm going to do is give you little segues here. We're going to talk about bits and pieces of it, and then we're going to cut away and I'm going to show you the sequences. So this isn't going to be just me sitting here at this table, sipping out of this amazing mug. You ever heard of Dirt Rooster? Great guy. His wife is awesome. If only I had something, to remind myself of my time with them down at the Hive Life conference in Tennessee. So, well, you know what? How many people were there? Well, I think they were scheduled to have 900 people, but they ended up with about 850, so I'm told. I don't know. But the complex is huge. In fact, before I start talking about things, maybe I should show you the walk into the space, and then I'll continue from there.
Try them. Hey, Frederick.
Hi, how are you?
Dennis and I want to.
Good
Morning.
Hey.
How are you?
Morning. Speaking of that, can I get a picture of you?
Sure. And so that's it. We walk down the hall, we get in, and we stop at that great backdrop that says Hive Life Conference. And what I want to talk to you about is there's a schedule. It's a pretty tight schedule too. Like here's the Friday schedule. It was a 2-day event. These are all the people that were there to speak and everything else. Here's the Saturday schedule. And, if you want to pause and see who was talking and who did what. So they had formal presentations, they had breaks, they had lunch. Both days. It was a 2-day conference. Now, 2 days might seem like a long time. It isn't, trust me. I was very fortunate. People allowed me to sit at the same table with them during meals and stuff. I'm very sorry to people like Kent Williams and Rick Sutton, who had to be there through dinner with me. Because, I'm just a backyard beekeeper. And I wandered around, and what happened to me was, I watched the presentations, and you're going to get a chance to watch them too, because Cayman Reynolds said that they're going to publish all those talks. And by the way, the talks were very good. I took notes. I sat right up front. And good stuff for both commercial and backyard beekeepers. But the cool thing too was there were lots of vendors there. If you think you're going to be able to run around and visit every single vendor, maybe you did. Good for you if that happened. I did not make it to every vendor there. There were people I wanted to talk to. I wanted to talk to the Hive Butler people. I wanted to go over there and look over all the Better Bee stuff, even though, I know all their stuff, but they had like the Colorado Bee Vac there, they had Better Comb, they had everything else, but what they really brought with them or sent to represent them was, let's see, Dr. David Peck, who ended up at the last minute having to give a presentation because Ian Stepler, I'm sorry to say, couldn't make it down from Canada. So he was missed, but David Peck did a fantastic job and a very comprehensive presentation about varroa mites. I'm not going to show you any of that here, but again, it's going to be on the release of the convention presentations. But what I will tell you that I'm going to show you is at the end of each day, they had a roundtable discussion. So all the presenters got up there on stage. They had the stage, and by the way, the room is enormous. So you couldn't all be right up close to the stage. So they had these giant screens on either side so people could still see and hear what's going on. And for those that missed it, if you couldn't be there, don't feel bad. You're going to see it. The best parts, though, you just can't experience looking at videos on YouTube or anything else like that. Because you know what the best part was? This is what I didn't anticipate. As soon as we got there, we pulled in. We're staying at the motel, which is right attached to the Sevierville Convention Center, so I didn't have to go outside, and get cold and stuff and endure hardships. Right in the foyer, right in the lobby, there's Dirt Rooster. His wife was there. Cayman Reynolds was off in the corner with some fancy newfangled headset, communicating with everybody, orchestrating everything. Huge job. And Laura was there, met her in person. That's right. And there was another couple there in the hall that said hello right away. That's right. They said hello to me in public with other people knowing that they were acknowledging that they knew me. So thank you to all the people that were down there that came up and said hello, even though other people were around and might have actually seen them talking to me. Huge endorsement right there. And that was my problem and the blessing, right? We get these breaks. And I thought I would jump up at the break, 15, 20-minute breaks, and I'd run over and get video of different vendors and the things that they were sharing or had brought there. And the other end of this was the people. And I would say that's the strongest part of the entire convention. You're going to make friends. If you weren't there and you go next year, I guarantee you're going to click with people that are like-minded, that keep bees the way you do or have similar interests that you do, and you're going to make friends that probably are going to recycle through the year and that will be restored at each annual convention. That's because it's going to happen again next year, same time of year, same location, so I'm told. So I hope if you couldn't make it this time, you'll come back next year, and then you're going to make friends, and you're going to see people that you saw this year, and guess what the atmosphere was like? You think it was a bunch of snobby people walking around, antisocial, grumpy, grouchy beekeepers storming around, griping about the cost of everything? No. It was like a big family. It was like a big community. So many people were meeting each other for the first time, plus, of course, there were YouTubers and social media people all over the place with their phones on their little gimbals and everything else, and interviewing people, taking pictures. Everybody was doing selfies and things like that. So you're going to run into the people that you've probably been watching on YouTube or Instagram or wherever you follow beekeepers. Good chance they were there. So, and that's what happens. Instead of getting around to all of those great vendors, you end up bumping into people that maybe you've seen their screen name before. And they introduce themselves, and next thing you know, you're in a conversation. And next thing you know, the break's over, and another presentation is happening. So for me, in order to get out there and really go and see all of the vendors that I wanted to, I would have to go out there and actually walk around to those tables during one of the presentations. I just, I kind of thought that maybe, well, at the end of the day, that people will kind of loiter in the convention center and, the vendors will be there and that would be like the social hour afterwards. But everybody cut out and went to dinner and things like that. So it didn't work out that well. And going out to dinner is great because there again, you're firming up those new friendships. And we made lots of new friends there, I'm happy to say. Even Justin was there selling his book, Henry Meets a Honeybee. Pretty sure he sold out. That's the other thing. If you're a vendor and you're thinking about a place to go, because there were other conventions going on, because I've talked to the people that were at them, and I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that I don't think the atmosphere was the same as Hive Life. Because at Hive Life, everybody was really friendly. Everybody was really upbeat and positive, and there were just people so happy to see each other all over the place. And then I noticed too at the tables, by the way, and some people wrote, and they're like, what about COVID? Were they wearing masks? And, those are real concerns. I understand. But the tables were actually really well spaced apart. And so the tables were large. So you're not sitting like I am at this little table. You're not 1.5 feet away from somebody. The table diameters are big. So you're not in each other's faces. And some people did wear masks and some did not. But in the convention center, the space itself, enormous, extremely high ceilings. And next year, they're going to expand it. So bumping into people and meeting new people. Anyway, let's move on. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what went on there. The other thing was people were coming up to me, thank you, and saying hello, and telling me about maybe some question that I answered for you, or maybe you had a new question, and we could have a little talk right there, and several people would get together, and we would just start talking about the bees and different maybe tests that I did, or maybe upcoming things going on, or maybe you just wanted to share about your thoughts about something going on. But people gave me stuff too. I mean, there's all kinds of cool stuff you can get at a convention. I mean, for example, look at this. Do you know what this is? This is a little jar of blueberry creamed honey. That's right. They gave me that for free. Honey, small town honey, and it says buzzed in, it's from Sharon Koopman. My glasses aren't very good. Sharon Koopman. So thank you for that. Creamed honey, blueberry. Never heard of anything like that. And you know what else is a beekeeping convention? Bees, right? Honey bees. Look what somebody came up and gave me. That's right. Maple syrup. Setter's Homestead Maple Syrup. Wayne and Anita Setter, Deer Park, Wisconsin. Little smiley face. Thank you for that, but that's pretty bold to walk around a beekeepers convention where they're having competition with honey and everything else and start handing out maple syrup, which I happen to love, by the way. So thank you for that. So I'm giving all these shout outs. I'm going to get this stuff out of the way. And look at this honey. Wildflower Home Sweet Comb Honey Farm from Columbia, New Jersey. Look at that. But you know what's in this? Among other things, it's honeydew honey from the dreaded spotted lanternfly. Mixed in with other stuff. It's not all it is, but that's in here, and it creates this little smoky, strong flavor. So that was interesting too, and I just wanted to give a shout out there and be thankful for that. Jamie Learn gave that to me. So those are the things that were given to me. So let's move right into it though. What I learned. Fellowship, great presentations. Got to talk to Bob Binney. Now, Bob Binney sat down and he actually mentioned me during his presentation. That's right. Elevated me right there, one line. And but he sat down and we talked a little bit about photography, photographic equipment and stuff like that. I was just happy to talk to Bob Binney about anything. The man's a legend. So if you haven't seen Bob Binney's videos or listened to him talk about all the decades that he's been keeping bees, that's worth watching. I was very flattered that he even took a minute because you know what? Time was, you did not have a lot of surplus time. So for anybody to talk to anybody was just a huge compliment because they're just busy. Cayman Reynolds running around like crazy the whole time. I don't even know how he did it. He was fried by the end. I mean, I looked tired because we drove down there, and then of course didn't sleep very good because the air conditioner kicked on. Why don't air conditioners just draw in cold air from outside? Why does it have to kick on there? Anyway, that's got nothing to do with it. So what I learned, let's move on. Cayman and Laurel, and then I have to show a photo of Cayman and us in the in the foyer of the motel. And then so the walk from the convention center and some vendors I did get to visit. Now here's the thing. You only have limited time. I mean, I thought I had all this time. Every time I talked to a vendor, I said, hey, can I come back and interview? And they're like, yeah, sure thing. And then I never came back and interviewed them because my mistake, I put off all my interviews to the second day, second half of the second day. But you know what happens on that second day, second half? They're packing up. They're packing up and getting ready to go. They're not available for conversations like that and interviews and videos and stuff. So I blew it on that one. If you are going to a convention and you are an influencer or you're hoping to get a video or some kind of interview with somebody, you need to do that on the first day or the morning of the second day, or you need to just blow your lunch hour and try to get them to do it then. But then, of course, you're taking up their lunch hour. See how it goes. But if I had to give an award for the best boutique style setup, it would be Dirt Rooster and his wife, Randy and his wife. So look at this.
There's somebody else. Good morning,
What's up,
Mr.
Mr.
Dunn.
Dunn? How you doing?
This is Be Real. You don't know I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We don't even
When
know
you're
who's
through, I need to shake your hand and tell you something.
Snow and rain went away.
Oh man.
And I was getting stuff, and then we do it away. It's a good way to draw people in for the thing today.
Good morning.
So what did you think of that? They had all kinds of shirts. I couldn't believe the way they arranged everything. And they were busy the whole time. I could not believe how much merchandise is moving out of there. What about my booth? I didn't have one. So I was just walking around. So the very next thing that I walked over to was the Horizontal Hives. And I believe the website is Horizontal Bees. Now he makes custom beehives. And so I walked in there and took a look around. And take a look at this.
It's just, yeah. Right.
It doesn't fill up.
Right.
It doesn't fill up.
They fill up way
Now we have 3 times.
Right.
And the other ones do better. We have a bunch of, we could have
Yep.
I just want to get evidence about these fake flow frames.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Come say hello to you since you're in my bedroom every Friday night.
That's my wife right there.
That's his better half right there.
Hi, buddy. Oh, this is good too. I'm gonna do a cutaway on this. Come right in here.
So what did you think of that? They had everything. And again, see, I blew off Randy because he said, hey, Fred, when I walked in, and I was going to talk to him later because it's going to come back and interview him. Time got away. I never got back to do that. And just, if he gave an award for the setup, that was it. So the next one I want to show you is Guardian Bee Apparel. I have that, look, see that veil right there? That's from Guardian. So I'm also going to put a link down in the video description today of my review of the Guardian Bee Apparel. But Terry was there. Great people. Now, see, these are people that I know indirectly through the years, and I've reviewed Guardian Bee Apparel, and I want to thank Terry because he sponsored me. See, that was fantastic. And they were moving a lot of bee suits there. So if you want what I consider to be the best vented jacket in beekeeping is from Guardian Bee Apparel. So check them out, and I'll put the website down in the video description for them. But this was just a quick walkthrough of what I saw there at Guardian Bee Apparel.
Yeah, I do large. You might go up one. Well, I think large would have got you. So, you know, your fingers are a little bit longer than mine. I guess we could do that. Good morning, how you doing?
So how they feel?
They feel good. They're nice. The other ghost hens I have are loose, and you can't feel what you're working on. You
Yeah.
can actually feel with these. But
Good
this giant
tactile,
sleeve,
yeah.
boy, I tell you, that's a.
Yeah, that was one of the main things we worked on.
Put it over your
getting
whole
that
body.
dexterity.
Now, what about venting on the back of the hand? What do you think about
This is
that?
like the suit. It feels like it's pretty decent.
Yeah,
The other gloves I have a really light mesh here, so they
Right.
can almost get through
at
it.
the wrist. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is better there.
They do love the wrist.
Now, what's the size range that you offer on those gloves?
So we go from extra small to 3X on gloves. And we haven't had anyone we couldn't fit yet as far as gloves go. This is our second best seller, but this was also the first veil that we came out with. This is the newest one, but it's quickly catching up. This may end up being the second best seller by the time
That's the one I'm going to order.
is it okay? Yeah.
And this is the one that you call your professional veil because it comes closer to your face and you
Yes,
need to
sir.
be aware of what's going on.
That's right.
And this one, the panel doesn't zip open, just on the sides.
Yeah, you still get the access, but you don't get full access to where you can completely come out of it.
Okay.
Without doing it the traditional way. 15% off. Promo item. Shirt. What size?
So then in the next section, I walked over and looked at the Oxavap people because they make the ProVap 110 that I use. Have used it for years. It's an expensive rake. And I wanted to look at their stuff. So I'm going to show you just a quick walkthrough of some of the things they had on exhibit there. And then I'm going to show you what I bought from them.
Unless they don't come pick them up. No, not unless
So there really wasn't anything new or unexpected at the Oxavap exhibit. They did have that battery-powered oxalic acid vaporizing unit that's kind of thick and stuff. Didn't really hold my interest, kind of expensive, but they modified the Teflon lid for the ProVap 110. And they've got this metered cylinder now. See this thing? So what you do with this is, it's got the standard cap, for those of you who are familiar with the ProVap 110. And these normally go in and they're a solid piece. And then you put your ProVap on it upside down, and then when you're ready to do the sublimation, you flip it over, you tap it, it falls down in. Sometimes you have to tap it a couple of times. But now you take this metered cylinder and you stick it in your oxalic acid. And then once it's inside this, it won't pass all the way through. It stops right here at the edge. Then when it's on the ProVap, you push the plunger and it pushes the oxalic acid right out into the bowl. No more banging it and stuff, and you don't have to flip it over. It stays upright. Then when it's done, pull that off, get yourself another dose, pop it in there, push the dose out into the bowl, and then it works. Now that's set at the factory for a 4-gram dose, right? But there's a little nut right here. And you screw this nut down because, see, there's a stopper, there's a spacer right there. So you reduce the dose by moving this nut further down, and it's totally repeatable. So I bought this. It was actually pretty expensive, but I think it's going to be great. So I can at least show you something that I bought, because you know what happened to me? Every time I saw something that I wanted, another lesson learned, if you're at a convention, if there's something there that you want to buy, get over there and buy that thing right away. Because every time I went to a vendor, they said, oh, sorry, somebody already bought that. Oh, we don't have any more of those. Sorry, we can get you one later, or contact our website and things like that. So once again, as a vendor, awesome place to be, because they were selling their stuff out like hotcakes. Lots of people were walking around ready to buy stuff, and they did. Larry, by the way, who sat at my table, and I'm pretty sure you're the one that bought this that was there. I had to buy mine through the website with no discount. In fact, it just got here today. Had a good time visiting. Okay. So the next thing was we go over and Pierce beekeeping equipment. They had those hot knives, and they had something that caught my eye right away, and it was a thing for making cut comb. So take a look at this.
We still make this in the US. And all of it are made in the US. This one is handmade in the
And what's the, is this aluminum in the bottom or
US. No,
stainless?
it's stainless steel.
Stainless steel,
Yeah,
okay.
and you have an optional filter you can put in here.
And what's the micron reading of that?
It's a 600 micron.
600,
So,
okay.
Tolerance doesn't get
Still raw honey, still good.
Exactly. That's the
Okay.
thing. We intentionally did that one. We had a 400 micron in the past, but we changed to 600, so you get all the pollen's. Once you're done uncapping, you can move the tank here and use as a bottling tank. You can actually dump all the honey here, and then now become a bottling tank.
Okay, cool.
And then on the bottom side of this one, you can take this lid. Sorry. So this lid we use as a drip tray. You can
Okay.
put a honeysuckle in here. So that's what I do.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I put all the honeysuckles, I stack them up so the flow doesn't get sticky.
Now then when you're done using it, it's all cleaned up and you're storing it. Does it
Yes.
pack down?
Yes, so this one actually sits. Once you take this out, this one sits inside here.
Okay. And
So
then
this
that
one becomes exactly.
becomes the lid?
Yes, so
Drip
you,
lid,
yeah,
okay.
exactly. You take this out, this one goes in here. You have to take the lid out.
Right,
I mean,
and the
not
spigot would have to
yeah,
come
yeah.
off. Okay.
And you take this out and you drop it in.
Okay.
And you put the lid back on, and that's it. Okay.
Now do you have one of these units here?
Yes, right there.
And again, all stainless, I'm guessing?
No, this is actually copper.
Copper.
And we got plated copper because we have the best heat transfer.
Okay.
And we, this is aluminum. So with aluminum heater block here. Yes,
And you have a controller here, and the standard 110.
that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have the heaters running through here, and then copper. You let this heat up about a couple of minutes, get it stabilized,
Yeah.
and then you can start running.
I
Because it's
actually
copper,
like that a lot.
Yeah.
And that's very popular
Yes.
going forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are in production right now, but it will be released to March for mass production.
And you're making these?
Yes.
You know, this is one of my favorites, by the way. It sure is, because look at this, the way that...
No.
Yes, it is. This is my favorite tool.
No,
It
I
absolutely.
can't
I
believe
have
it.
one.
I can't believe it. I didn't talk to you earlier.
See, that's what you get. You should have talked to me.
I know.
No, I like it because once you get your egg on there or your
You
5-hour-old larvae, and then it just scoots off, and you have to make sure to keep that little rascal on the same side. Don't be flipping them.
Yes, exactly.
You know, because their spiracles are already in service, right?
Yes.
So in there, you knew that already. Oh, see, informed.
People are asking for wax scraper for stainless steel tanks.
Okay.
So this will come with the same controller. So you can heat up this one to about 240, 250 degrees. So
Okay.
you can scrape off all the waxes from some of those stubborn areas on the stainless steel tanks.
Okay.
So that's what this is for. But right now it's used by the construction companies and industrial application for.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So Pierce Beekeeping Equipment, they had the coolest stuff, and I didn't even remember that they were the ones that made that little grafting tool that I like so much. Pushes the little egg off of there. I tried to tell Natalie, you know her, beekeeping like a girl. And I was like, Natalie, they have this new grafting tool. You like to do grafting? And then I said it pushes the egg right off into the cell for you so it doesn't like stick. You don't have to use paintbrushes or, you know, like these little grafting tools. Like that's a normal grafting tool, right? And you know what she said to me? She goes, oh, so you need something that does it for you. Ow. Actually, she was really nice. It was pretty funny. But yeah, that's my favorite grafting tool. Pushes it right off. Cool. Have one in your kit if you're going to do any grafting. So let's move on. I already talked about the presentations. They were really good. We had lunch included every day, buffet style. And during those breaks is when you want to talk to people. And what else? I can show a quick scan to show you kind of how the tables are laid out. Let's look at that. So you get the impression it's a big space and people were spread way out. And you notice people shaking hands, saying hello, getting to know each other. So when people sat at each other's tables, they started out as strangers and they left the conference as friends. So that's going to happen. And Cayman Reynolds, I mean, there were times when he was just adored by so many people. And these are the award winners. And, you know, they just couldn't help but look at Cayman and just feel such gratitude. Look at this picture. So that was fun. One of the few pictures I actually took there, again, because I just lost myself in conversation with other people that were at the convention. That's just what I ended up doing, is talking to people about everything. So at the end of each night, there were roundtable discussions, and that's when the speakers get together and you put your questions in a box, and then they all kind of share their answers to those questions. So what I'm doing is I'm going to give you a sample of one of those talks, and that's okay because it's not part of the official presentations that are part of the video that's going to come out later. So I'll put that at the very end of this video to close it out. So all of them are great, commercial, applied to backyard beekeeping and everything else. Dr. Peck did a fantastic job, I'll say that again. And in 2023, we talked about different things that might be done different. It's definitely going to expand, and that conference center can be expanded. There's so much space there. So they had false partitions up. So what they're planning to do, and I'm sure this will come out later, and of course Cayman will explain it, but if you were a strictly backyard beekeeper, small-scale beekeeper, some of the talks, although interesting and informative, and it never hurts to know more about beekeeping, but on the commercial side of things, if we had divided the time, so let's say you had a presentation on this side of the conference hall that was covering commercial beekeeping facilities, how to build a facility and things like that, which Bob Binney did a fantastic job of explaining that. But at the same time, you may have people that want to know more about just backyard beekeeping and smaller scale things that are related to that. So Cayman's entertaining the idea of having both of those things going on simultaneously. And also that will kind of partition up the group of people that are gathered at the conference. So now you will know who the other backyard small-scale beekeepers are, and these big guys with the deep pockets and the huge operations can all get together, or those that are thinking about getting into the business, the commercial end of beekeeping. And you could have them both all at the same place, and then of course some presentations would be for everybody, including those roundtables. So that's coming up next year too. I think it's going to be fantastic. And what else would it be? I'm going to be better prepared next time because I'm not going to wait, and I'm going to do those interviews and video people. I've got some live streams and podcasts coming up that I'm not hosting, but I've been invited to talk. So when those come up, I'm going to, of course, let people know when those are coming around. And why are those happening? Because we met people at the conference. So I hope you're going to watch those. And I hope that you're going to go to a beekeeping conference. If you can only go one place, this really happens at the perfect time of year when your bees are not doing a lot. You've done what you can for them. They're buttoned up for winter. They're all hunkered down. And January is a great time to be heading south. The week before the conference happened, they had 80-degree weather. And then snowstorms came in and actually knocked electricity and stuff out of some of the surrounding areas. So it was really strange. We left our house, it was 16 degrees Fahrenheit. And then by the time we got down there, it wasn't much better. It was like 37 degrees. So very interesting. Would I go again? Absolutely. Do I think it was a great value? Absolutely. Are you kidding? For 2 days? Because here's the thing. If you're going down there to shop for stuff, a lot of these companies were offering deep discounts, plus you don't pay shipping, on the things that they're offering there. So you can actually recover the cost of the convention just in the savings of the things that you buy. Plus, you get to talk to the people that are making the products. You get to talk to the experts right there. Now, let's be honest, some of the things, you're never going to talk to those people. They are so busy. I ran into people later on the second day, like kind of on the way out the door. The guys from Premier Foundation that I wanted to talk to, they were busy selling all their stuff. There's 2 guys there, but then we got to talk to them later because they came over when we were about to have dinner in the restaurant. So you're making connections. They might be cursory, but some places were super busy. I wanted to talk to the Hive Butler people. You know, they were just hustling. Everything was moving. If you're a vendor and you've got a good product, that's the place to sell it. If you're a beekeeper, you want to be in the fellowship of other beekeepers, and you want to see what's going on because it wasn't all stuff that we already know about. There were some new innovations there, and people were dying to talk about their new innovations, and those are people I wanted to expose on my channel. But again, the 2 days, it just went like that. But I'm telling you, it's worth it. If you're into beekeeping, you want to meet people, you want to learn about bees, and you want to talk to the experts, Hive Life is going to be the place to be in 2023. See what I did there? Thanks for watching.
Our newsletter, which is a monthly newsletter that we pull together. We're going to have, 3 or 4 or 5 articles any given month, and I might be writing half of them. We've got other folks who are contributing to those, and that's really a growing and expanding place for you to learn about both the research I'm doing and some of the other interesting ideas and synthesis of scientific work that I've been doing that I think might be of value to folks who need to learn it.
Well, as that evolves and more information is made available, I hope that you'll send it to me and so I can make other people aware of it, because like we've talked about, we don't know what we don't know, and hopefully working together we'll know a little bit more.
At least know a little more.
At least know
that's the goal.
More, exactly. So, Kent, appreciate you coming out again this year. I know you've been involved in this region of beekeeping for a long time. I remember, I'm going to make you feel real old, Kent. I know you're going to love this. But when I was, you see, I think Darian Sharp, young man here, and also Natalie Summers, both of them, and there's several other fine young men and women here, but when I was their age, starting to think about getting into bees, I was a little bit older, about 15 years old. I remember hearing Kent Williams talk, and honestly, I don't think he's aged today. He looked really old back then, too. I was thinking, wow. 30 or 40 years from now, that could be me. No, but Ken, he's been kind of a staple for Kentucky and Tennessee beekeeping education, and he's been quite a hoot over the years. I don't think he's gotten any better with time. You're not like wine, but
No, I don't improve with age. No.
Well, that's probably for the better. So let's talk a little bit about beekeeping. I think that's probably what we are here for. Overall, what's something going into this coming year, Bob, as we've just entered into it, that you're looking forward to learning or seeing more of? What's something that you're kind of excited about? Because I know you're just kind of like Molly, just ready to jump right out of your seat.
Well, I want to understand more about nutrition. I'm impressed with Kent's knowledge. And of course I want to learn more about how to deal with mites, and I'm impressed with David's information. I'm so glad you're here. I was surprised, to be real honest. I shouldn't have done an insult and a compliment all at once. I didn't know you existed, and now I do, and I'm impressed. And when I get back to Georgia, I'm going to tell them that they need to ask you to come to the Georgia Beekeepers Association and perhaps speak there if you're willing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, your presentation was perfect. I think it helped experienced beekeepers and brand new beekeepers alike.
Perfect, Bob. What are you trying to do? You know how much he's going to charge me next year to do this with that comment? All joking aside, short notice, really appreciate Dr. Peck coming out and filling in for Ian. He wasn't able to make it this year. It was unfortunate, but I really think that he stepped right in and definitely did exactly the job I was hoping he did. Great job, and we look to see more from you in the future. Appreciate you. So kind of while we're on the subject of talking about you, what's something this year that you're kind of looking forward to maybe studying more or developing that you can share with us?
At this point, one of the things that I'm focusing a lot on is thinking about the insulation in hives and whether or not different strategies of insulating different parts of a hive are going to meaningfully, significantly improve beekeeper outcomes for their bees, or whether it might just be, a better insulated hive might hold heat a little better so the bees use a little bit less honey, and does that not really ultimately matter all that much? So I'm interested in studying whether top insulation, whether side insulation, whether hive wraps are a help, whether they're, I don't have any reason to think they're a hindrance, or whether they're going to be really major. But I think the question that you asked, I'm going to steal the question you asked him because I liked it more than the one you asked me, which is not so much what I'm researching, but what it is that I think is an important topic in beekeeping for the next year. And I think, especially for folks in this audience, it's important to remember that you as a beekeeper owe it to your bees and to yourself to keep learning. You've got to keep learning. Education is the heart of this. You've got to be reading, you've got to be watching videos, you've got to keep learning. But if you are learning from somebody who's keeping bees in a different way than you, or on a different scale than you, if they're keeping a different kind of bees than you, or if they're living in a different region. And this is a really important problem because a lot of the beekeeping information you can find books written back the last, couple hundred, maybe 1,000 years, right? Aristotle wrote about beekeeping, but he was beekeeping in Greece, and this isn't Greece. There's a lot of scientists who have been beekeeping in Germany, and beekeeping in France, beekeeping in England, beekeeping in, New England. That's not the same as beekeeping here. So it's important that you learn from all of the good people who have good, valuable, useful information. But just because somebody says something's working for them where they are, make sure that you're ground truthing it. Make sure you figure out whether it works where you are. Make sure you know trustworthy folks who have information right where you are, who might be able to say, yeah, that works really well up north, but we've got a bigger problem with small hive beetles. I can't slap 3 pollen patties on my colony and then come back 2 weeks later because I'm going to wind up with a whole bunch of small hive beetle larvae and dead bees. So being mindful of where you are and where you're getting your information from is critical.
Awesome. So, Kent, we'll get to you, and then we'll get to some questions. Besides trying to find a more secluded place to do your sunbathing, what else do you have planned for this year?
My plans for this year are survival. That's pretty much it. I have some fellows that help me with our bees that my purpose of taking them on and helping them learn the craft of beekeeping and hopefully learn how to make a living at it. And I just want to see them be a bigger success at what they're doing and learn the craft better, learn about going to almonds, what it takes to get bees to almonds, what it takes to get them through almonds, what constitutes a hive that's ready to go rather than one that's not going to grade when it gets there. They have to learn all these things, and it's the people that are helping me that I'm working on more than I'm actually working on the bees. They understand pretty well what they're seeing when they look in a hive and what to do about it. Sometimes they're not real good about doing it, but they understand what it is that keeps a hive alive. They just have to learn the business end of it. And my purpose this year is to get them over that hump.
Well, you know, have you ever thought maybe it's the guy teaching them?
What?
Could it be just their teacher that's kind of slowing down the development?
No, it is. It's definitely their teacher that's causing the problems.
Okay, maybe send them over to Bob's or something for a few weeks.
Yeah, well, I tell them to watch everybody else's stuff and not pay as much attention to me, but...
yeah, tell them to watch my YouTube channel. They might learn a thing or two.
Well, they do that for comedy. Yeah.
I know. Always a critic. All right. Do each of you try to control swarming for honey production? If so, how? So, absolutely. Over the years, that has evolved, and I've gotten...
If I can help it. And if you have the patience or the wherewithal to wait till the next season, if you put it in the lower box against the wall, there's a good chance it'll be completely empty by the following year, March or April. It's a good time to get rid of old frames. And as far as time goes, there's so many answers to that, and I'm going to approach it from a money point of view. There's the ideal point of view, which is every two or three years, and from the money point of view, where you reach your diminishing returns and what your investment is compared to what the dividends you're being paid, and you're not overly exposed to chemicals like pollinating 4 crops a year. I would say 10 to 12, possibly 14 years, but 10 to 12 being more ideal. That having been said, I probably have a few combs that are a little more than 12 years old, but these old combs are absolutely a toxic sink, honestly. Interestingly enough, most of the toxins and poisons that come into the colony via nectar migrate to the comb. They're attracted to that. You might know the language better than I do. Comb is a lipid, and many of the chemicals and pesticides are absorbed by that rather than remaining suspended in the honey. And older beekeepers, or I should say, not older, more seasoned beekeepers will have heard this phrase that the comb is the liver of the colony, and there's really something to that. A lot of the toxic waste goes into that comb. So it really comes down to what you've been exposed to, and if you've been exposed to nothing, you still need to replace it probably no more than 12 years, ideally.
That's a pretty good response. I have 13 colonies and don't want more than 15. If I have to split 3/4 of my colonies to prevent swarming...
I've got back on my table back there where we've got loads and loads of great people writing really good articles for these vets to learn how they can help you, advise you as beekeepers. So if you want to get antibiotics, talk to a veterinarian. They're probably going to be able to teach you things that you don't know. They're also probably going to have questions for you. A lot of veterinarians don't know anything about bees because they didn't have the training that we're giving folks at Cornell now. So if they have a question about bees, work with them. They have information you don't, you have information they don't. You'll be able to figure out a good management strategy. But in general, in my own hives, for the most part, even if I have a disease problem, I'll do my best to avoid the antibiotic treatment if I think that there's another path forward for that colony. If there isn't, I'm certainly going to use the antibiotics.